thank you for the introduction, and once again, on behalf of the Congressman, I do want to apologize that he wasn't able to make it tonight. As both Bill and George explained, very important vote tomorrow to put some resolution to the debt ceiling debate that's going on right now in D.C. As you're well aware, there's been wrangling back and forth about how much are we going to cut, how much are we going to spend, what is it going to take for the people, the parties to come together and raise the debt limit. Should we raise the debt limit? Should we not? The Congressman is convinced that the debt limit, the debt ceiling needs to be raised. In fact, when I was here last month, I had and unfortunately I don't have it with me tonight, but I had an example of what we would need to do in order to not raise the debt limit. And if I remember correctly, about 2 months ago, we would have had to cut somewhere. We would have to cut, the social let's say programs such as Medicare and Medicaid, or we would have had to increase revenues by about 2/3 of where we are. And there's just no way to do it, especially because we would have had to do it back in April. So we are under the situation we're under because of the fact that we have not balanced the budget since the the late 90s, early 2000s. That was the last time we actually had a balanced budget. And as you know from your own circumstances, when you are spending more than you take in, you've got to find extra money to cover your debt and the interest on that debt. So that's kind of the situation we're in. And the Republicans have come up with a bill, which the Congressman is an original co-sponsor on. You may have heard of it. It's called the Cut, Cap, and Balance Act of 2011. And like it sounds, it's pretty simple. It makes cuts, it caps spending, and it proposes a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution. So to just kind of give you a brief rundown, what the bill does is for fiscal year 2012, which starts in October, the bill cuts $111 billion. And so basically it's divided as follows. Non-security discretionary spending actually goes back below 2008 levels. And that saves about $76 billion. And then there's $35 billion cuts to non-veterans, non-Medicare, non-Social Security mandatory spending. And then the defense budget is basically at the current president's level. So why $111 billion? So these savings total meets the promise to enact immediate spending cuts as part of any debt ceiling bill, and would cause the deficit to finally get back below $1 trillion next year. So it's a reduction of the previous year's deficit by about $400 billion, but I think the key is our deficit comes under $1 trillion, which is still quite hefty. So that's the first part of the bill. The second part of the bill is the cap part, and that basically caps federal spending, and it's over for the next, until 2021, so if I can do math in my head, next 10 years. And basically what it does is it decreases the amount of spending in percentage of GDP. So for 2012, it would be, we could only spend 22.5% of GDP. So you just take the GDP, you times it by 22%, or you get 22% of that, and that would be the cap of spending for that fiscal year. And then by 2021, we have it down to 19.9%. And that is basically the same level as the Ryan budget, which the Republicans passed a few months back. So what we're really doing is taking that budget and we're making it statutory and we're making it law. So there's no questions about that. The third part is the balanced budget amendment, and this basically would require a balanced budget amendment to pass both both chambers of Congress before raising the nation's debt limit. And what you need to pass a constitutional amendment is you need 2/3 of both the House and the Senate, at which point it would go out to the states. And the states would have to ratify the amendment, which I believe is 2/3 also, if I'm right. It's about 38 states, though. So it's a challenge, but the congressman really feels that, you know, they have a winning hand here. The president wants the debt ceiling raised, so we are giving him the raise. But what we're saying is you have to cut, you have to cap spending, and we finally need a balanced budget amendment for the United States Constitution, so we don't have this problem in the future. I think, as you can see from the audience here tonight, and I think as you're seeing across the nation, people are ready for that. That's what they want. So it's really going to be up to the Senate and the President to make this reality, because this will pass the House. Like I said, they're voting on it tomorrow. Very important bill. And then from that point, it's just to see how the other side reacts, basically. But that kind of summarizes the bill. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have about it. The other thing I'd say, though, is, as Bill was saying earlier, this is an important process, not only for what we're talking about at the national level, but also at the local level with the redistricting. And so it just, if I could, pass along any words from the congressman, it would be, stay involved, be active, because these are issues that are going to affect you, both locally and nationally. And this is a turning point, really, in our nation's history. He has a great quote that he uses from Daniel Webster, and unfortunately, I don't have a mind like his, so I can't memorize everything he says. But basically, the point being is that, the founding of the Republic and all the forces that came together to make that happen don't happen very often in history. I think Daniel Webster said every 6,000 years. And if we don't get this taken care of, this debt problem, we have probably about 2 to 3 years to get it taken care of. And if we don't, we're going to end up like Greece is today. And when America defaults, I'm not really sure where the world goes at that point. But if you remember the fall of the Roman Empire, I think we have the Dark Ages for the next couple hundred years. And so this is crucially important, and that's why they're having the vote tomorrow. That's why the congressman had to go back. And like I said, it's important that we take the action we need to take to get this under control. So, like I said, with that, I'll take a few questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. But,
will the Senate pass it?
Okay. Will the Senate pass it? I think that's a good question. The feeling is right now the Senate probably will not pass it. But what has the Senate offered? The Senate hasn't offered anything. And just like 2 years ago they didn't even pass a budget, they haven't offered anything. So this is certainly a position where we're offering something. We're saying, here you go. You got what you want, and all we're asking for is these 3 things. And so I think that's a winning hand. Regardless of party or anything like that, it's a winning hand because we're saying, constantly the president is saying they won't come to the table, they won't give up their corporate jet taxes and things of that sort. And we're saying, here we go, here's a plan. And I'm sure there'll be some wrangling about it. Right now, I think you have 3 options. You have this Cut, Cap, and Balance Act. You have the McConnell plan, which you may have heard about, which the congressman is not going to support at all. Basically, the McConnell plan gives the president the unilateral authority to raise the debt limit whenever he wants, up to a certain amount, which basically is the Congress, giving up its authority to be in control of the purse strings. The third one is also something the congressman supports, and this is what George was referring to earlier, which may happen, which is to raise the debt limit for a certain amount of days, say 30 to 60 days, concurrent with cuts. And at the end of that, you look back and you make sure the cuts were made. And if the cuts, like Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. And if the cuts are made, then you raise it for another 30 days or another 60 days. So I think those are going to be the three options. I personally, my personal opinion, I actually kind of like just the smaller bills because then you make sure this happens. But this is the one that the Republicans are going to go for. This is the one that the House is going to pass, and we need to make sure that we hold our elected representatives responsible and make sure that that the Congress doesn't give over its authority to be in control of the purse strings.